thank you for coming. This is very important to me, and I believe it's very important to everybody else here. I think everybody knows where I stand on this Plan Pinardville, and that is a no. I hope I believe the rest of you are like-minded. I just want to get through this, easy as we can, and that's why I have everybody here today, because Thursday is the day. We have to show up at that planning meeting. And bottom line, if you can drag your friends, hook them to the bumper if you have to. You get them to the town clerk's office at 7 o'clock Thursday night, and if the building is packed, you stay in the parking lot, because that message will go in there and tell the planning board, hey, look, there's a lot of people out there that are against this, and that is going to do the right thing. Our voices do mean something. I'd like to start off with a pledge of allegiance, if you don't mind. Dick, could you lead us into it? Dick, come on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Also, I invited the entire select board, and I want to explain that I made a mistake. By doing so, they would have to post, for an official meeting. They didn't do that. By the time frame, I didn't give them enough time, so it was my mistake. But we do have a couple selectmen here, and it's Collis Adams, and
Try it.
Mark LeMay. I apologize. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. And also, we have a representative, State Representative John Heichel just came in, Mark Warden, and Jack Flanagan. And Greg Hill. And now my little part here is going to be real quick. Now we got more noise. And what I need is a couple volunteers, and I have two right here. And I want to explain. Yeah, come on up if you can. And could you say your name?
Riley.
Right. And what I'm doing here is I want to show you, throughout this, they keep saying HUD has nothing to do with this. They can say it all they want. HUD has everything to do with this. Everything. And I'm going to show you a little skit on how this is possible. And with this skit, they won't dispute it. They won't say, no, that's not the way it is. So what I want to show you is the first paper. This is HUD. I'm going to be HUD. That is New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. That is the link to HUD. And this is Goffstown. Now, what is real important is I want to show you, look at the size of me. I'm the government. I'm big. Rawr. Here I am. I'm a big government. New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority is a little bit smaller than I am, but not by much. And look how cute little Goffstown is. Goffstown is just sitting right here, all pretty, and just wanted to just exist and be a nice community. But this is what happens. Here is a check. $50,000. I'm HUD. I'm going to give it to the New Hampshire Housing. Here they are. But then look at this. HUD rules. A whole bunch of them. A lot of them. And a lot of them that we don't want. That goes with that check. It's hidden behind. But then what happens, HUD steps over here. Hey, I don't have nothing to do with it. I'm gone. No, I'm out of the picture. No, I'm just sitting over here. Well, HUD, or New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, says, hey, Goffstown, would you like a $50,000 grant? There's a check. And you can have that check, but behind it is a bunch of rules from HUD. And then they will give the check with the rules to Goffstown. So is HUD directly with a handshake in the, there? No, but they are there. This is the link, and that's why I wanted to show you, because if this goes past the planning board, you're going to hear more and more stories about HUD's not here, because HUD's the scary part. But I believe New Hampshire Housing Authority is right there with them. I want to thank the participants helping me show this. Thank you. Now I'll come back to Representative John Burt. Well, it feels a lot better not being HUD. And we do have a HUD representative here, Greg Carson. He's right over there. Just in case if anybody has any questions, he is available to answer questions when we get to that point. Our next speaker I would like to bring up is Jack Flanagan. He's a representative from Brookline, a very good friend. I reached out to him to see if he could come up. He is a former selectman, and I'll have him explain everything. And he has a real good story, so please listen very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John. John and I go back, we've got some history up in Concord, and it's not good. So I won't share it with you. It's sort of like what my mother used to share with my kids, so I wouldn't want to share that. But we've done some really great things up in Concord, and you should be proud of Representative Burt. He does a great job. He works very, very hard. Thank you for having me. I, as John said, was a selectman, and we introduced, or wanted to look into, at least I thought, mixed use. And what mixed use was, were businesses on the bottom and apartments on the top. And if anybody knows what Brookline is, it's don't blink. It's more of a speed trap than it is anything else. But I said I went along with it, and then there was a charge that went along with it, and I didn't read it. But I signed my name. Shame on me. This is when people weren't reading bills even in Washington, D.C. So then I finally read it, and I said, I never agreed to set up an ordinance. He said, well, then why did you sign it? And I said, well, from the conversation we had, I didn't remember any ordinance being spoken. So this basically was a charge to establish an ordinance to put mixed use through this small little New England town called Brookline, New Hampshire. They wanted to make it look like Pepperell or Groton, Massachusetts. And if anybody knows that area, it's storefronts and an apartment. So this committee was established, and then they came back with a document saying that they wanted to get $22,000 to help establish this ordinance, and it was from New Hampshire Housing Finance. So being the good public servant, I said, you know what, I didn't read that other one, but I'm going to read these contracts. So I read the contract with the town of Brookline and New Hampshire Housing Finance. And it had words like sub-guarantor or a sub-guarantee, and then it referenced some contract that New Hampshire Housing Finance had with HUD. So it basically said that by accepting the money, we were bound by the contract, as Representative Burt had showed in his little skit here, we were bound by the terms and conditions between New Hampshire Housing Finance and HUD. And nobody had read it. So I said, I want to see it. And it basically said that you must comply with all HUD regulations. And I looked at my town manager and I said, do we know what all these regulations are? And he said, no. I said, should we give it to our attorney, our town council? And we all scratched our heads and said, you know how many thousands of regulations HUD had? Well, I did some more investigation, and you can, when you get home, if you have a computer, YouTube Westchester County, New York, and HUD. Okay, and what happened was, HUD is now using Westchester County, it's a very affluent community in New York, and forcing them to build properties for low income or various other programs that they have because they didn't meet the requirements. So it's Westchester County, New York, /HUD, okay? And the reality is yes, there are strings attached. And this was proven to me when up in Concord we had a meeting of the Granite State Futures and the regional, Greg Hill, who's a former rep, was there too, and the regional planning commissions. And someone asked the question, is there strings attached with this money? And you know, you heard a lot of rumblings from different people, and it went on and on and on. And finally, Ben Frost, who's the executive director of New Hampshire Housing Finance, this gentleman right here, okay? He raised his hand and says, of course there's strings attached. And you could hear a pin drop in the room. So, the long and the short of it, and I don't want to take up a lot of time here for you folks, it's getting warm and I've been in Concord all day. But the point being is this, there are strings attached. You are at the mercy of whatever HUD decides. No. Will Pinardville rank as high as Westchester County? I doubt it. But the long and the short of it is, there's never anything such as free money. And I want to forewarn you that as a selectman in Brookline, I managed to get enough votes to send the money back. Because I thank you. I did not want to compromise the assets of our town because of a decision for $22,000. And with that, I told John I couldn't stay late, but if anybody's got any questions, I'll gladly answer them now. I'm going to get yelled at if I don't get home soon. Sir, go ahead.
With the low-income housing, what does that predict is the ratio of households with children? How many children per household move? How many children in each one of these low-income households?
As far as I know, and I don't know everything, I mean, I know a lot about workforce housing.
It's the same thing, okay?
Well, actually, logistically, and I'm sure the gentleman will say, is that it's not. But it's based on income. It's not based on the number of children. And, for example, in workforce housing, it's usually limited on this number of bedrooms. But then again, when I was a kid, I mean, my brother and I used to fight, and I guess with my sisters, you know what I mean? There's no real limitations on that. But I can't tell you exactly if there's any limitations on the number of kids.
What I'm saying is for every unit of housing you have in town, it's an average of 2.1 children. And eventually, go into the school system. So you're negative, you're working with a negative number as far as your income, your taxes.
Oh, absolutely. As a selectman, and I used to be the chairman of a school board too. I'm a real glutton for punishment. I've served on way too many things. But you're absolutely right, is that as you increase your population, what happens? They all need to be educated. And of course, that is what drives property taxes. But I'm sure Goffstown's got a great school system and hopefully maintains your property values. But I'm agreeing wholeheartedly, as you have more people in the school system, it's got to drive up the price of property tax.
Question, you have to build schools.
There you go.
Build a school?
There you go. Brookline, where I live, for many years, was the fastest growing town in New Hampshire. So yeah, we had a lot of growing pains, trust me. Was there a hand up? Yes.
I just wanted to...
You have to speak up. I'm getting old and...
I've done a little research on families with children, and the U.S. Census says that families with children tend to have two. So if you have a 48 apartment complex, if each family has two, you could be bringing in almost 100 children with these complexes, and it could cost you over $1 million, because it costs almost $11,000 to educate a child in Goffstown. I just want to let you know that. And I have backup for that.
Okay. Thank you. That's another one.
You want more? Sure.
Okay, I just want to throw this in because...
Could you, do you have a second to come up just to speak?
Or speak
No,
up.
only because we can't hear you.
Pretend we're your significant other and yell at us.
I they said that it was going to be senior housing. Wrong. Most of the buildings are families with children, and criminals, and felons, and rapists, and you name it. There's one little house, maybe, one building with seniors. And you get the Manchester, Goffstown, Sheriff's Department, Fire Department in there almost on a daily basis. And I know that for a fact because of relations. So you add more of these houses. I don't want to sound bigoted or racist or whatever, but that's what's going to happen. You're going to be more violent and more peaceful.
Well, from what I understand from talking to Representative Burt is that the proposal that you have is similar to what we have, was mixed use. But the reality is if you're not in compliance in some of these other type of housing, that could in fact happen. You could be found, how should I say, there's a chance, but you, like I said, you're not Westchester County.
Right.
The other thing is there's a lot of programs that help finance these type of things. Like John and I worked on workforce housing up in Concord, and I have found out that there's provisions in the law that says if you can't sell them, you can just sell them to anybody. So, yeah, there's a lot of gray area that, what I'm recommending to you is don't go down the path unless you have to, and it doesn't sound like you have to.
But also, Pinardville is zip code, he's saying, he's part of Goffstown. Can't even get a Goffstown zip code from people who don't want it for some
Well, I tried to punch you in my navigation and it didn't come up, so. Although I represent the town of Mason, okay? Now, there are roads that end into the woods, and you have to go another road to get to where the road starts again. So it's not as bad as Pinardville. Anybody else want to shout at me? John and I deal with 400, so you're a small group. Yes, sir.
You said a lot of Brookline.
Yes.
You got a grant from HUD.
Yes.
And you said you
Turned it down? No, I gave it back.
gave it back.
Yes.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
At the last meeting we were at, they said that this $50,000 that they gave Goffstown, this plan in the city, said it doesn't have to be returned. As long as they come up with a plan can be rejected or accepted. But in either case, they wouldn't have to give back the $50,000.
I want to, if I can, you know, yeah, I get what you're saying. If you take the money, you're responsible for whatever the contract says. All right? Now, here's the other thing too is, in my case, and it sounds like your case too, is if you read the fine print, New Hampshire Housing Finance has the last say on what you approve. In other words, even as the town, you say we want it to look like this. If New Hampshire Housing Finance does not like what you put forth as a plan, they can say, no, that's not acceptable. And a perfect example is in the town of Brookline, and I go back to workforce housing, you know, we wanted single-family units, and we wanted no more than duplexes, and so on and so forth. And they came back and said, no, you don't have that ability. Okay, it's not within the parameters of the town to decide. It's done by law. In this case, if you take the money, it's then done by, where's the vote? The rules, okay? But, yeah, I'm just saying, once you take the money, you're committed.
And one thing I do want to follow up on that is I've been talking with Westchester County, I'm trying to think what his name is, I thought I wrote it down. But he's chief of staff over there, and then also I've been talking with a bunch of attorneys. What started over there with a $50 million, that's all they had to spend, this county, New York, it's just above New York City, so they're pretty well to do. They said $50 million isn't a problem. But when HUD came in, a nonprofit sued them because they weren't compliant. Then HUD came in and took over the lawsuit. Later they found out the nonprofit is affiliated with HUD. So it's all the same money. And so what now is coming out is they want them to put in $900 million to $1 billion of housing. And originally, when they signed the contract, it was only $50 million. They're saying, oh, we can do that, help the people. But now, through this grant, it increased almost, to almost $1 billion.
This is not unique just to Goffstown, too. Obviously, Brookline has it, and as state reps, we're seeing a lot of other towns, having the situation. And how do I say this? If you look at what the plans are that they're endorsing, like smart zoning and mixed use, it's really all to minimize the use of fossil fuels. I hate to say that, but I mean, it wants you to live where you work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the reality is as John says, is all these other rules that are associated with HUD is the time bomb that you have to watch out for. Did you have a question of me?
What the question was is did we accept the 50,000? And the answer is yes, we did accept it. It's I believe 38,000 has been spent. We can give that 38,000 back, but from what I'm understanding, the New Hampshire Housing Authority says we pretty much have met the obligation. We have two selectmen here that could comment on that. I believe, that's the correct, what they received the other day, is that we've met our obligation, especially if it goes to the planning board, and if all of us show up to the planning board and go, hello, don't vote for this, and if they vote it down at that point, I believe we've met our obligation. They are looking for legal advice on what HUD could do. But you know what? I think, what do we have, a 13 or is it $10 million budget? It's huge. I think we can pay 38,000 back. Don't buy a couple shovels or a new toilet. And send that $38,000 back. Write them a check and send it back. If that's what it comes down to.
One other thing, and John says we got to wrap up, is the interesting thing is, isn't it amazing that you had no idea? No idea that this was taking place. And the reality is it's all done by regional planning people, by New Hampshire Finance, by the planning board, which are they appointed or are they elected? They're elected. Okay, well, you're lucky to elect them. But the long and the short of it is, as citizens of Goffstown and Pinardville, you had no idea. No idea that this was coming along. Was there public hearings? I don't even know if there was. Okay, well.
They post them
At the post office. But thank you very much for having me. And good luck with it.
Thank you, Representative Flanagan.
Just real quick, another one question.
Yeah, I have a question. Why did this become Plan Pinardville, not Plan Goffstown? Is this another case of something on Pinardville? No.
To answer that honestly, I believe that is. I think we're the ugly step kid.
Come on.
But, I think they want to just throw the housing over there and keep the rolling hills in Goffstown and Union Street. And I apologize if somebody disagrees with it, but, well, I apologize if you disagree, sir. Yes. Yeah, and I think our Pinardville is very well represented. I like our community. And one real quick one, if we can, and then. Sir, hello. If you'd like to come up and explain yourself, the lady would like to have you explain yourself.
There have been many public hearings on this.
There has.
It's totally open, number one.
We never said it wasn't open.
Are you
Just
from
said,
Pinardville,
behind the
sir?
scenes, come on.
Where do you live? Where do you live, sir?
I lived 20 years on Orchard Street.
Yeah, you
Out
were
with the
not.
house, and now we live on Tanager Road. I've lived in Goffstown since 1972. That doesn't give me any credit, I'm sorry.
So you know I have Pinardville. Well, thank you for taking the time to explain yourself.
Isn't the Franco-American
Well, we'll move right
Society-
along then.
St. Anselm's College, that's where the Franco-American Society is.
And what I'd like to do is bring up Donna Pinard, and she's our next speaker.
jam musical festival where I was sitting in this place where people are just doing country music, and I struck up a conversation with a man who lived in Wolfboro. And he was so upset by what was going on that he actually was willing to have this conversation with someone that was, from Goffstown. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about. But he was talking mostly about the fact that you had Massachusetts people that moved up to Wolfboro, got elected to their zoning and planning boards, and then brought this all in. And he was extremely upset over the fact that they were having such a hard time defeating it. The last thing I saw on Facebook was that that they may have done that, but someone was trying to verify to see whether or not they had defeated it and they had it removed. But if you look online for anything, whether it be, Plan Ocean Bay out in California, and the comments that the people have online, wrote them down. They started calling it stack and pack housing. Everything is sustainable development. And the woman said, is there anything you did like? He goes, well, I like to ride my bike. But I don't want the zoning coming in so that you have to have, 5 stories with the commercial on the bottom and then 5 stories on top. And that's what and if you look at all the others, Alabama has actually passed a law, Missouri has passed a law saying it cannot happen in their state. So there's and I believe at one point in time they tried to pass this in New Hampshire, but it failed. So even if we go and and the planning board votes it down and it's over, it will never be over. So we have to constantly be diligent. They are going to come back. They're still going to try. It's happening all across the country. It just happened to get here now. But there have been other places that, Westchester, when you see the video, been fighting it for 3-4 years.
And Dick Gamache is our next speaker. Thank you, Dick.
You're welcome. Good evening, everybody. I have a lot of notes tonight, so bear with me, okay? First of all, the people in Pinardville have character, and I have a lot of friends that live in the village. So we are one town, okay? We're not separate. What this is doing to us right now is taking this plan, this action, and bringing it to Pinardville. Yeah, we have a lot more commercial and stuff like that than they have up there, and that's the way it is. You can't change it. We actually need a plan, but we need a plan that makes sense. We need a plan that will work, a plan that we can afford, not one that said we want to do this, we want to do that. We can't afford it. I bet everybody here, doesn't have $100,000 a year to go waste. You got to pay your taxes, your oil, or all that stuff, and you have to live that way. So I think everybody lives within their means to a certain point. Second of all, I don't know, I go around Pinardville and I wave at everybody and everybody waves at me, so we're all pretty friendly. So, that man that left, I feel bad for him in a way, but he has a right to state his opinion and we have to respect that. Okay, what I just want to talk about tonight real quickly is the plan itself, okay? The plan is only adopted by the planning board, then it's done. There will be one public meeting after that, which is part of the master plan. The code, reviewed by the planning board, there are 2 public meetings for that. The planning board votes to recommend or not to recommend to the voters. This is in December and January, and in March, the voters will decide what want to approve it or not. Okay? Everybody follow how that's going to work? Thank you. Any questions?
There's a meeting this Thursday, the 12th, and that meeting is going to do what? It's going to review the proposal.
It's just going to review the plan, not the code. The code is we start Friday, I believe. Yeah, we're going to have meetings on the code. There's going to be 2. But we're going to start working on it a little at a time. My schedule is, that is one question I would really like answered. No one really can give me an answer, okay? If the planning board adopts it, does it go to the planning board? It's going to go to the planning board for sure, okay? Then if the planning board doesn't adopt it, does it go to the selectmen? Nobody knows. Okay? So, but anyways, that's about the way it's going to work. There is going to be public meetings, and I'm very proud to be part of Pinardville.
Thank you, Dick.
I'm sorry, but after the planning board gets it, and they approve this plan, it goes before the town people to vote. Am I correct?
That, if the planning board votes yes, then it will go to the March ballot, I understand. If the planning board votes no, I understand we have met our obligation, it's done. And I think the SMART code, which is, part of the issue, is the danger part of it, is not going to be brought forward. That's what I'm understanding, but now Dick is saying that it possibly could be different. So, so we're hoping, that's why I'm having this tonight. Hopefully you can rally up your neighbors and everybody else to show up Thursday to tell the planning board, no. Yes, it will go to the voters in March.
Hi, I'm on the ad hoc committee. What will happen if the planning board... Yes, I'm speaking as a citizen right now, I'm explaining the process. What will happen is if the planning board votes yes, we then begin to work on a SMART code zoning based on what's in the plan. And that will end up going for the planning board to either recommend to the public or not recommend to the public. And then it will go to the voters in March. As I understand it, if the planning board says no this Thursday for the plan, the SMART code becomes moot and the whole process ends. And I believe Mr. Carson, when he spoke to our committee, said that at that point, we will have met our obligation. Thank you.
He has a thumbs up. Well, but real brief on this Brian Wright, I want to point out one thing, what he said to me. When I first showed up, and it was down across from Shaw's where they had the first plan of Palooza, I think they called it. And they had the kids come in and color pictures and make it look real pretty, to try to entice us into this. When I was talking to Brian, he sucked my badge. And Brian, I think he thinks I'm a government person. And, some government people are, they're all into bed together and they enjoy themselves. And so when I was talking to Brian, he goes, John, what kind of state is this? I said, what do you mean? He says, you know what, I just pull into town, I make my money, and he makes a lot of money. This guy is the guy from Tennessee. He's making decisions for us. So he said, all I have to do is in most states, talk to the selectmen, the alderman, the mayor, and just talk 10 people into it. That's it. I didn't know I had to talk a whole town into it. And he sounded kind of disgusted. And so what I said, welcome to New Hampshire. Live free or die. Because we are going to have this for the voters. And we are very unique where in Westchester County, New York, they have representatives that force this down the voters' throats. And what was really funny is the gentleman I spoke with today said it's 2-1 over there, Democrat. Guess who's in control right now? It ain't Democrats. It's all Republicans. Because even the Democrats saw this and said, are you serious? We took a $50 million obligation and now we're going to have to pay $1 billion? So they voted everybody out that voted for this. And now it's all in courts and they're trying to get out of it as best they can. And in the video that I'm going to show right now, it is a little bit long. There's about 3 minutes in the middle where you're going to glaze over and go, what is this guy showing us? The first couple minutes is really good. There is about 3 minutes of blah, blah, blah. But then, toward the end, you'll see exactly what he is saying. This is the part that I really wanted you to see, because I don't want to end up like them. And matter of fact, if this gets past the planning board, they have assured me they will send over people and anything they can to help Goffstown. That's how nice these people are. They said they will help us defeat this in March.
The county was sued in
Oh,
2006 under the False Claims Act of 1863. The charge was that the county accepted federal dollars from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, but failed to study whether race is a factor in housing opportunities. In 2009, former County Executive Andrew Spano and the Board of Legislators settled the case. And critically important, there was never a finding of fact of wrongdoing on the part of the county or an admission of guilt in the settlement. Instead of going to court, the county and the federal government both agreed to settle under the following terms. The county would spend at least $51 million to build 750 units of housing for lower-income people in 31 so-called eligible or mostly white communities by the end of 2016. Now, progress is measured by annual benchmarks and significant penalties for failing to meet them. So let's look at our progress. The county is well ahead of schedule. By the end of 2013, the county must have 300 units with financing in place. We surpassed that benchmark in March. Everyone in the county should be proud of that record, and I know I am. Not just because we are meeting our obligations, but because of the way we are doing it, by working cooperatively with our towns and villages. And I'm proud of how, through the decades, the communities have been building affordable housing not just to meet their own needs, but also the needs of the entire region. And we have more than 50 awards to show for it, even some from HUD. And for the record, I am proud that Westchester is the 4th most diverse county in all of New York State in terms of African Americans and Hispanics. We are tied with Manhattan. And Westchester's diversity is one of our greatest strengths. And as county executive, I will defend with every tool at my disposal the right of people to live in any neighborhood in Westchester, in any home they can afford. And let me say this very clear. There is absolutely no place for discrimination in our county. The biggest and really the only issue going forward is zoning. The federal government has a very different agenda and vision for Westchester. In fact, HUD calls us its, quote, grand experiment. That means Washington bureaucrats, who you will never see or meet, want the power to determine who will live where and how each neighborhood will look. Now, what's at stake is the fundamental right of our cities, towns, and villages to plan and zone for themselves. This home rule is guaranteed by the New York State Constitution. HUD thinks it can trample on Westchester because it has the misguided notion that zoning and discrimination are the same thing. They are not. Zoning restricts what can be built, not who lives there. Zoning exists to keep traffic from endangering kids on their way to school, to prevent factory noise and smoke from invading residential neighborhoods, and to stop raw sewage from polluting our drinking water. Zoning exists to protect quality of life for everyone. Take away the zoning that protects Westchester's reservoirs and watershed, and you put the drinking water of 8 million New York City residents at risk. Now listen carefully, because I know what I'm about to tell you sounds exaggerated and unbelievable, but it's not. And I urge you to go to westchestergov.com and read for yourself the letters I'm about to reference. In its letter of May 13th, 2011, HUD insists the county must go, quote, beyond the four corners of the settlement. In other words, they admitted that what they are demanding is not in the agreement, and their demands are outrageous. HUD wants no restrictions in any neighborhood on height, size, acreage, density, number of bedrooms, and lack of water or sewers. In fact, in a letter on March 13th this year, HUD goes so far as to even attack single-family, quarter-acre lots as, quote, restrictive zoning practices that, in their view, could be discriminatory. Really? You know, like many in this county, I live in a modest house on a quarter-acre piece of land, and my home is my biggest investment. And I thought working hard, paying your taxes, and one day paying off your mortgage was the American dream. Now think about what's at stake. The federal government is trying to force me, as county executive, to sue each municipality to abolish even basic zoning protections. Now, what does that mean for you if that happens? It means the neighborhood you live in today could change over time, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. A 5-story building or higher could be put on your street, not only by HUD, but by any developer. Because if you take away the zoning rules for HUD, you take away the rules for everyone. And that's not all. New demands by HUD just keep on coming, each one more overreaching than the last. In that same March 13th letter, HUD contends that the settlement's requirement to build 750 units of affordable housing was just a starting point. The county's target is really 10,768, based on an old 2004 Rutgers University study that was never even accepted by the county. Let me say that number again. 10,768 housing units. That's almost 15 times the settlement's requirement. And that study allocates a number to each community. Harrison, 756 units. That's more than the entire settlement. North Castle, 712 units. Bedford, 396 units. Scarsdale, 160 units. The list goes on until you reach 10,768. Now, put a dollar figure on 10,768 units, and the cost is between $700 million and $1 billion. Now, to come up with $1 billion, we would have to raise county property taxes 200%. 200%, at a time when the state tax cap is 2%. How's that going to work? And that's just county taxes. School and local taxes would certainly increase too, along with crowded classrooms and a strain on services. And here is what is so frustrating. We have tried to work with HUD. They ask for something, and our staff spends hours and hours to provide them with volumes and volumes of data. For HUD, zoning has become a civil rights concern, and they told us to review their list of 6 restrictive zoning practices. So we did. We studied and analyzed them across all 853 zoning districts throughout Westchester. Then we applied more than 30 additional criteria. In all, we looked at more than 26,000 data points. Conclusion: Westchester zoning is not exclusionary based on race. The major impediment is economics. People live where they choose and where they can afford. HUD wasn't satisfied. Now they wanted a legal analysis. So we asked Professor John Nolan of the Pace University Land Use Law Center, a leading expert on affordable housing. So he conducted a separate legal analysis. And guess what? His conclusion supported ours. Each time we've asked the federal government to provide proof of exclusionary zoning, they come up with no answer. And they certainly have no answer for this. How could the zoning in the settlement's 31 eligible communities be exclusionary if the county is ahead of schedule building affordable housing in those communities? It's pretty obvious. The federal government will not be satisfied until we give them the answer that they want, no matter what the facts are. And now comes the insidious part. To intimidate the county into changing our conclusions on zoning, HUD has been withholding money that was promised to our local communities for the last 2 years. The amount is now up to $12 million. And this money not only goes towards affordable housing, it goes to communities that have nothing to do with the settlement and some of Westchester's neediest residents for programs like homelessness prevention. You know, I appealed to HUD Secretary Sean Donovan for an explanation and reconsideration. We were denied. And I want to thank the members of the Board of Legislators who joined me this week on a fully bipartisan basis to have this arbitrary decision by HUD reversed, even if that means going to court. So, we've been at this for more than 3 years, and frankly, it is very tiring and disheartening. You know, going up against Goliath is never easy. Some people want me to just give in. They accuse me of being stubborn or worse. Believe me, the easiest thing for me personally would be to cave in, blame it on the past administration, and not worry about the future. But how do you give in when you were taught as a kid that you have to be willing to stand up for what you believe in, and what you know as an adult, that the thing you treasure most, freedom, is rarely regained if lost? So when you hear me warn about HUD overreaching, this is it. 31 communities becomes the entire county. 750 units become 10,768. And $51 million becomes $1 billion and a 200% tax hike to pay for it. Now, I have said from day one that Westchester will comply with what's in the agreement, but we will not be bullied or threatened by HUD to do things that are not in the settlement. It all comes down to this. HUD thinks that Westchester is some kind of grand experiment, that it can strip away our constitutionally protected rights, and that it can dismantle local zoning. I say Westchester is our home, not a test tube. I say Westchester residents didn't stop becoming American citizens the day the deal was signed in 2009. And I say nothing gives HUD the right to turn the American dream upside down, and I will continue to stand up for Westchester, our communities, and all the people who live here.
See the trouble they have? I can't stress enough to you what it means to get to the planning board this Thursday. Because we can stop this Thursday. Because I don't think you guys want to go through this. I know I don't. You know, we don't want their plan. And the next speaker is going to be Cheryl.
Like I said, I am on the committee, but I'm speaking as a private citizen tonight, just so you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the committee. How many of you have any of you not seen the maps that are in the plan? Okay, so maybe we could put up the Shaw's map. Ice House District. According to police. Okay, you'll notice, what I don't know, in the Shaw's parking lot, what they did was what they call suburban. This isn't that picture. But the one you can't see is suburban retrofit infill development. That's what they call it. They basically fill the parking lot with buildings, which they call row houses, which are townhouses or apartments, etc. And they also build the Ice House District. They put buildings in there, which is about, what, 30 acres, which would hold a whole lot of buildings. So that's one of their ideas. There's also a lot of new roads that, from what I can see, go through people's where there are now houses. So how that'll come about, I can only imagine. And the Cody's picture, we can address that directly because it's one I can look at. Okay. Oh, there it is. You can see the parking lot up there at the top, right above the word Shaw's. That's all basically built with buildings. So there's the businesses will do their customers will park. I don't know, but it just doesn't want to stay. Live presentations always have their glitches. And one of the things they're talking about if they do that is this idea of shared parking, which means that if you live there, you would share your parking spot with the customers. And there again is, to me, a crazy idea because who knows when you're going to be home and want your parking spot. So they just seem to throw out ideas just to try to sell it to people like it sounds good, but it makes no logical sense. You can see they've done the same by Rite Aid below the word Shaw's. Those are, again, all the buildings, all the apartments. And it seems to me, they did the Hannaford parking lot, and that's the building right down there. And Hannaford, I spoke to them, and that's part of property. They said they would not allow that. So why they thought they had the right to throw those in our plan, I don't know. But that's basically what they did with throw buildings anyway, there was an empty space. In the Cody's, it's particularly, yes, Cody's, please. Cody's, yep, okay, sorry. Can you point to Cody's Diner? See where the little tree triangle is? That's actually Cody's Diner. Behind it is Cody's house. Next to that, Cody is Mr. Piacentini, right? Is that your house? I thought so. Behind there is sort of beige or brownish tone. That's a new alleyway that's been in, but currently there are there carports and garages back there? So and that's Cody's backyard, and they blocked off his parking and basically the front of his house. That picture has been taken out of the plan now, but all the words are still there and all the ideas and everything are still in there. So it's sort of an out of sight, out of mind idea, but I think people can probably still, especially Mr. Piacentini will remember that that is still in there.
You see that shaded area? That's an alley.
Yep, they want to put that in there.
They don't tell you it's an alley.
No, they just kind of draw it in.
Right through the back garage.
Yep, and then behind Cody's whole backyard is gone. So, and there's other alleyways, for example, Mass Road Green, which is on the left side of the street. He has a road going through his property now, it's his property, plus two alleyways coming into it, so he can no longer secure it because those are going to be public roadways and alleyways, which he won't be able to block off, but he can block off the property now for protection. So there's a lot of things to worry about in this plan, and any zoning that comes out of that will reflect what is in here. So it's important, as I said, to get this voted down. If we do it Thursday night, all the strife and the stress can just end right there. And as Mr. Carson did say, that will pretty much, we'll go as a matter of obligation, correct? Correct, okay. Just making sure. Okay. I know I drilled you mercilessly at the meeting, so. All right. So that's basically, I just urge you all to come, bring your friends, bring your neighbors. If they can't come,
Okay, when you have a plan and then someone says, I'm against it, I'm against it, I'm against it, you need to step back and say, well, what can I do to make it better? Okay? I had an idea and I send it to somebody. You put Cody's Corner back up, please. Okay, you see Cody's Corner right there, and they want to make an entrance, welcome to Pinardville, something nice. And that's good. I really agree with that, okay? But how are you going to do that? Well, we have to look at facts, okay? If you take the emotions out of making decisions and base it on facts, you usually make a better decision. Mr. Cody is ill. He's not doing too good, okay? So he may, in a couple of years, whatever, okay? So now you take a look at Cody's Corner, you take it his house, and if they do that, then they're going to have to use eminent domain to take property behind those buildings. They're going to knock down 2 garages, a carport, in order to get through. If anybody disagrees with me, please raise your hand because I need to keep on track here, okay? Now, for example, just imagine this. If the town of Goffstown would buy Cody's Diner and his house, the first thing they could do is take and make that a nice curve, because tractor trailers have to come into the left lane in order to make the right-hand turn. You see that all the time, okay? So if they would do that, then they could put a nice little pavilion like welcome to Goffstown, have a map of Goffstown, the village and Goffstown, where all the businesses are, and update and something like that. So you'd have a nice little place, welcome to Goffstown, and you wouldn't have to spend money for attorneys, eminent domain, and everything else.
All right, thank you. One other little side note that I want to also tell you is, I'm not sure where the letter came from. The gentleman in Westchester sent it to me, but we've also received it. And what it is, it explains to our boards and to our town officials how to handle people like you and I. You know, how to approach us and what to say, and to remove, for example, Cody's corner picture. Leave everything in, so the rules are still there. So they'll be able to do what they want on that corner. But they remove the picture because for some reason, we're visual, and when we look at this picture, we go, oh my God, we can't do that. So there is papers that, really upset me that when they send them up here to say, well, the troublemakers. Well, I don't consider myself a troublemaker. I consider myself an American. I live here in Goffstown. And that's why it's important for all of us to get to that planning board on Thursday. Because we're supposed to challenge our government. And that's what we're going to do Thursday. We're going to show up and we're going to tell them, say no. I'd like to wrap it up, and then we're going to open it up to questions. But our next speaker, and I want to thank him for coming, is Rich Gerard. And he's just going to talk, for a little bit. And then we're going to go to answers, questions and answers, and, whatever questions you have. The only thing is we'd like to keep the questions to, a minimum if you can, brief, to a minute or something. And then please wait for the microphone. Here's Rich. Thank you, Rich.
Remember Poltergeist? Don't look into the light. My name is Rich Gerard, and I am the host of the Drug at Large radio show in the morning, and I've had the opportunity to cover this program, I would think pretty extensively, on my adorable radio show. And John asked me to speak tonight, not because I'm here to share my thoughts on Plan Pinardville. I'm really not. Despite the 10 years I spent in Manchester city government, either as an alderman or an aide to the mayor, and despite a degree in political science where I actually did study land use planning and comparative urban uses and all that fun stuff, I'm not here to talk to you as a planner tonight about your plan. I'm here specifically, though, because I am a troublemaker, and I would like to encourage you to be the same way. How many of you, and you can put your hand up or not, how many of you think, or how many of you feel like you are intimidated by your town, by your governing bodies, and by the people you elect to represent you? How many of you feel like you are talking to a trailer hitch?
Because we are.
Now, I can tell you from my time as an elected official that it's not an easy job. A professor of mine once upon a time told me that politics defined as nothing other than the process of allocating scarce resources to competing special interests. Fair? Now, let me tell you something. Until you've sat in that crucible, you have absolutely no idea what that's like. Would you agree with Mr. Chairman? It is not an easy position. But let me tell you something. We have, in this country, lost the idea that we are responsible for holding our elected officials responsible. We are busy with our lives. We look around and we see them do what they want to do anyway, and we think that we don't matter. And there are one of two responses, and there are only one of two responses in that situation. And one is to say, over my dead body, and die trying in the process, or to say, it doesn't matter, and walk away. Now let me ask you something. If you say it doesn't matter and you walk away, who wins? They do. Now there are some of you in here who probably, like the gentleman who unfortunately left, believe that Plan Pinardville has something to offer. You are every bit entitled to share your opinion as those in this audience who don't. And it's important that you do. But if I lived in Pinardville, and I want you to know, not only is my super secret broadcast location above Jock's Flower Shop here in scenic Pinardville, But the financial services business that I still own for 6 years had an office here in scenic Pinardville across the way at the Center Pinard Plaza. I'm kind of familiar with Pinardville, add to that I grew up on the west side, and I kind of get it. I won't claim to be from here, but I've been around enough to know Pinardville is not Portsmouth, and anyone who wants to try to make it that way ought to pack up and go back to Tennessee. But I will say this. There are questions that I think need to be asked. And I am a troublemaker because I have relentlessly asked them. And you should too. Thursday night at your planning board. And you might want to consider talking to your town elders about the efficacy. Go ahead, look it up. I'd like to throw words out there. Or whether or not they should cut a $38,000 check and say thanks but no thanks to the federal government. Of course, if your planning board kills it, then you don't have to pay the money back and you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to pass in the town meeting in March. Right? So this is about making Pinardville sustainable, is it not? Does that not beg the question, what is unsustainable about Pinardville? Shout it out! If you know what's unsustainable about Pinardville, let me know! Now, I live in a neighborhood up near Dairyfield Park in Manchester. It's supposedly a walkable neighborhood because it's got trees planted in those planters between the sidewalk and the curb. If you're good with a pogo stick, or you happen to be Inspector Gadget, you can hurdle the tree roots of the 100-year-old maples that line the streets in my neighborhood. Or, as I see every day when I leave my super secret broadcast location, you can be a mom pulling a carriage or pulling a wagon or pushing a carriage, or someone running down the street on the perfectly walkable, straight, flat, nice, unobstructed sidewalks in Pinardville. I don't know. To me, if someone says Pinardville needs to be more walkable, I guess I'd have to ask where I can't walk now. One of the things that I've noticed, because I've had the opportunity to cover things like the college and career readiness state standards, Plan Pinardville, and any number of other issues where the federal government somehow gets involved, usually through a grant of money. See, people say there are strings attached. I usually say they come with a hangman's noose. See, my question to you is, if you can't get straight answers to clear questions, if people act like they're evasive, see, for me, my mother loves to tell this story about me when I was, I think, 2 years old. In my house, we call it the tassel story. And apparently, I was up on my aunt's couch. She had these tassels tying the curtains back. These great big tassels. And I just sat there and kind of minded my own business, batting the tassel around. And my mom, who was in the next room in the kitchen, said, "Richie," that's what they used to call me. Can't tell you what they call me. Same name as Mr. Gamache here. But I don't allow myself to be called that because ferment is the acronym for my real name. Okay? She said, "Stop playing with the tassels." So I kept hitting the tassel. "Stop playing with the tassel." I kept hitting the tassel. Well, all of a sudden she got up from the chair, and apparently I grabbed the tassels and got what I was going to get out of them before I could take it off the couch. Here's the thing. If you allow yourself to be deterred by people who would send a letter to your planning and town officials, if you allow yourself to be deterred by people on your board of selectmen who refer to you as negative, who say you're a vocal minority that is unwilling to deal with the facts, that no matter what they say or what they do, you cannot be placated, mollified, or otherwise educated, and therefore you should be ignored, then I say bring 10 friends and jam it down their throat. Now, I don't care what side of this issue you're on. And a lot of people think I'm opposed to Plan Pinardville. That's what we call it on the Adore Show. Why? because the answers have been few and far between, and there have been what I consider to be rather clear, at least appearances of conflicts of interest with certain people and the outcome of this product. He who pays the piper calls the tune, and you have every right as citizens to question. I would take it a step further, and I would say you have the responsibility and the obligation to make yourself known. I started on technically the Monday the 23rd. That will mark the second anniversary of my first broadcast. A broadcast that I started specifically because I believe that local media has lost its interest and ability to cover what's happening like in communities like Pinardville. Sure, they have people who show up at meetings and report on what's going on, but did they read the 82-page plan that I did? Maybe. Have they spent the time that I did? No. Have they given the opportunity to your planning director, the chairman of your planning board, the opposition to come and say their piece on the show? Not really. And why am I sharing this with you? Because I am a fool if I make this available and you folks sit there at home and think I'm going to do it all for you. I can help you raise the questions. I can help you turn up the heat. But I can't go to your planning board and speak. I can't vote in your town elections. I can have the chairman of your board of selectmen on my radio show to talk about the issue. I can't vote for him. And let me tell you something. As a former elected official, there ain't nothing that motivates them like hearing from people that vote for them. It's really that simple. And so I didn't come here, was not invited here by Representative Burt, who I'd like to thank for getting involved and taking that extra step beyond to make this available to folks, and for honoring me with the opportunity to speak to you. I didn't come here to slice and dice the plan. I came here to urge you to ask your questions and to remind your governing bodies that they are there to do your bit. You are not there to come to you behind them and what they want, and you're damn well better not allow some consultant who's getting paid with tax dollars, and yes, a federal grant is tax dollars, to marginalize you as some kind of wingnut, tinfoil wielding, silver hat wearing, negative jerks who don't know what you're talking about. Because it's your neighborhood. And if you don't think there's anything unsustainable about it, then you should let yourself be known. My radio show is open to anyone pro or con, and we will continue to discuss this issue and any other of the community. But know this, I might be able to break the ice, but only you can make the difference. Take your community back, participate, advocate, enlist your friends and neighbors, and understand that what happens, happens because you will it or you allow it.
Again, I can't stress that I don't want to end up like Westchester. I want to keep Pinardville. That's why I moved here. Pinardville's a great area. The town of Goffstown's great. That's why I picked this area, plus my wife lived here. And, you know, that helped a lot. And she wasn't going to move. So I said, I guess if I want to live with her, I guess I got to move in. But I'd like to open it up, and I know a few people want to speak, and then I'll be right out there, and if you can hold on, I got a few right here, and I'll work my way up with some questions and comments. If you just want to state your name and...
Hi, my name is Teresa Webb. I own Electric and Hair Design on Mass Road on the corner of Roy Street. I've been there 14 years. I am the oldest hair salon still in business on the street. I don't know if you guys know this or not. A few things. I own downstairs, I have a tenant upstairs. I have read the laws and regulations. I'm so opposed, you have no idea. When the first meeting came up for Plan Pinardville, I don't know if you guys are aware or knew this, but it was the night of the Goffstown proms. There are 13 hair salons from 1 mile of Mass Road. That means 13 of us could not make it, as well as 20% of the parents could not attend either. How fair is that? The few that could go, we have no say, because we're busy working or being prized with our child doing this. Our fate now lies in the few people that did attend that meeting. Here are my concerns. I'm personally offended the town does not feel my property is pretty enough. Thank you very much. I worked very hard and spent a lot of money on weeding. If you don't like it, come help me weed. I would love it. They have showed pictures of what they want Pinardville to look like. I'm not interested in going back in time to the 1900s. So sorry, it's 2000. Let's move on. They would like to put trees up and down Mass Road. Do we remember the 3 summers of construction? How many businesses did we lose in that time frame? 5. That's way too many to lose. I'm not doing it again, and either will the other businesses. The trees will now root into the new sewer lines that we just had put in, gas lines and water lines. How fair is that for the rest of us that put up the construction? Most of these people in the planning board, they hop in their car, they drive out of town. Us businesses here in town are going to have to put up with the construction of the trees, reinventing the front part of our property. It is not fair to the rest of us. I'm not interested in that. I don't know about you guys either. Oh, wait, there's one. They would like the front of our businesses to be as close to Mass Road as they can. Or they would like our businesses to be pushed back for purposes. The center of Goffstown, all the businesses are right on Mass Road. They have huge problems with plowing. They have to wait for the town to come show up and plow so they can open up their business. How fair is that? That is not good for the community in which we live. The town wants to make us more attractive, but have they forgotten that there's 120 businesses here in Pinardville? Like Rich said, not everybody can vote. I fortunately live in Goffstown as well as I own a business in Pinardville. I am one of the few that can vote. There's maybe 50 to 75 people that have a business here in Pinardville that have a legal say compared to the 17,000 to 18,000 people that live here in town. I'm only one. I'm speaking for all. I need everyone else to help us out. Did you know there was a Pinardville Business Association back in 2000? Anybody know this? No. I'm one of the last ones left. I'm still here, 14 years like I said. The Pinardville Business Association was originally brought for everybody to come once a month, whether it be a resident or business member, to try to make Pinardville a better community. If you look at King's Bowling Lane, that sign that he has on his business was from the Pinardville Business Association. We had, on Earth Day, we had made whiskey barrels filled with flowers, dropped them off at local businesses to try to entice people to come in. They would like to bring St. Anselm's College more into our community. We did that. We had discount cards that we passed out to all the college students so they knew what businesses to come spend their money with. We had window decals so they could easily identify on their card as well as the window. Come on over, we like your business. Goffstown has stifled out business on this street. It is disgusting. Are you guys aware there are 13 salons, 8 mechanics, 3 pizza places, 3 cleaners, and 3 Chinese restaurants? Do we need any more pizza places? No. It is not our fault that Goffstown has done this to all of us business owners. They've done this to themselves, and I don't feel bad. The Pinardville Business Association kind of exhausted itself when the Goffstown Rails to Trails program came in. The whole big thing with the state of New Hampshire said, we are going to give you money if you change your zip code to 03045. And you know what? We're still 03102. They got their money. They got their Rails to Trails. We're still here, right? Loud and proud. They would like to bring trees on our streets. They like to have our business signs much smaller attached to the building. They don't want us to offer what we have outside for our services. How is that going to bring communities stronger together?
by having this done. The HUD housing. It's a huge concern. Ever since the Scabswag apartments have moved in, there have been more robberies and break-ins than ever before. I don't know if anybody has paid any attention to Mass Road, but from 1 mile to another, there are 60 to 70% women that run those businesses, as well as own them. You are now putting all of our lives in danger by bringing in more HUD housing. It's great for a year or two, but after that, they tend to bring trouble and drama and destruction. I'm not about to lose my business by this whole Plan Pinardville zoning act. I'm totally against it. And don't forget, for every plan that gets passed, there are always loopholes. Please read the fine print. Come rally with us on Thursday. Vote no for Plan Pinardville. Thank you. My name is Teresa.
Thank you. In a real short side note, once we get done killing this thing, we got to take care of that bridge that's going to link the rails to trails to Manchester. I'm receiving information from the police station in Manchester and then also some aldermen over there that are helping me on preparing to kill that. And what it is, Manchester is this close. Very shortly, they're going to abandon their rails to trails. And the reason is they've spent millions, and every bit of it has been graffitied or damaged or destroyed. So the crime is just astronomical. The police, and these are the emails that I'm supposed to be receiving really shortly. The police are saying, look, we can't patrol it. We just can't. We don't have the man hours. So once we kill this thing, let's work on that bridge. Yeah, we got one more speaker here, and then I'll come out to the audience for real brief questions if we could. State your name.
Hi, my name is Ryan. You may think you are just looking at Pinardville, but have you thought about a Goffstown citizen's point of view? I am that citizen. I say no to Plan Pinardville. You may not realize that what you are doing to Pinardville will affect Goffstown. I think common yard is not right. We have barely bought our property, and now you want to take it over for our restructure of the town's appearance to put in sidewalks and or bike paths along my front yard. We legally own that land. I do not want people to have the right to be able to be that close to my yard and see my toys or watch me play. I like my private yard. I am 10 years old, and I vote no for the smart code.
Thank you. There was a question way in the back. I'll go back.
I have a very simple question. You know how they say call your congressman or senator if you have a question? So do you have a list of numbers that we can call for the planning board so we can state what our
Unfortunately, Rich Gerard has tried to get some of that information. It should be public. And they're saying that for privacy purposes, and they're afraid that the boogeyman will get these people, that they're not publishing these names and addresses. Well, I agree. So what we have to do is, I think on the link, if you go to Goffstown Today, Goffstown Today, is it not Goffstown Today? That's Phil's. I look at his website so much, it's in my head. If you go to the town of Goffstown, you can write to Brian Rose, I think is the name on there, and then he will forward it along. But I agree with you. The names and emails should be public, just like they are on the Selectmen. We know who they are. We know their phone numbers. My phone number is published. My email is published. But I'll try to get that information and put it up on my website. Yeah.
I want to read something to you. It's a quote by John Burt. I want to show the voters the other side of Plan Pinardville, he said. You said. There is good, and I want to show that good, which is the smart code. The other side is a committee deciding to take certain words out, and they go on, and you went on, and it makes sense to me. You didn't really say this, did you?
Well, thank you for putting me on the spot. I did not say that. When the, very nice lady from the newspaper called me, if I don't trip, I think there was a misunderstanding on what I said. I said there is some good in the, I meant to say plan. If I said code, I didn't mean to say code. In the plan, and there's very little good in there about business. And we don't have to adopt this, but we can steal that out of there, and that's what I meant. So I thank you for that. I did not agree that the code was good, because that, I believe, is the, from what I'm understanding, is the real danger part.
Well, first of all, Dave Pothouse, my name. Have the planning board seen this addressed by the gentleman from West Chestertown? Have they seen that? And if not, what can we do to make them see that?
I believe they have not seen it, and we got a head shake and no, and he's on the planning board. So I believe he hasn't seen, the information, not getting to them.
How can they make a decision if they haven't seen it? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I agree, and I think that's why we need to be there Thursday. Like Teresa says, we need to get there and we need to say, look, do not do that. And let me explain, if you don't mind. I hate to say that there's a class to teach you how to speak to other representatives and your town officials, but there is. And I took that class. What you want to do is you want one topic. So come up with an extremely important topic, 2 to 3 minutes, and that's all you want. Because if you go past 3 minutes talking to the planning board, they're going to be sleeping. So if all of you can get with your neighbors that are going to show up and say, okay, I'm going to talk about the school. Right out here, they want another road. I don't want that road for the safety of the children here. It's not good. It's going to give more access to any creeper that wants to come down and keep an eye on our kids. So that's one topic. But when you go from topic to topic and you're all over the place, people will lose you and they'll just glaze their eyes over and their ears. And so, when you guys speak to the planning board, make sure that you're right to the point, 2 to 3 minutes, say thank you, always be polite, and then be done. I will send this to Brian tomorrow in the request that is sent to all the board members.
Because that address tells you everything you need to know. And it's very clear, very concise, and it seems to me that would convince them unless they have a hidden agenda. The other question I have is I read through this thing on the internet, and where is all this money going to come from? I see millions and millions and millions of dollars as you go through that plan, you look at it, and has anybody who's in favor of this plan come up with any explanation of where all this money's coming from?
Yes, they have. It's from that lady's purse right there. And yours, and anybody, well, I think you have a purse, so we're going to want to reach in there, and anybody else that has a wallet, that's where the money's going to come from.
Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Smith. I actually live close by and used to sit right about here for lunch. Been a resident of Pinardville for my entire life, and I've voted in this very location. But what I think, and the reason why I'm here, I'm sort of not wanting to get caught in the details of things, and there are some very concerning details regarding safety, security, break-ins that we've been having around here, and especially as small business owners and close by residents, change is a scary thing. But I think that the whole reason why this Plan Pinardville has come up is that it's been identified that there's a problem as far as Pinardville being a highly concentrated center of commerce in our community. And I think that it's just important to keep in mind, no matter what happens with this Plan Pinardville, and I personally don't think that it's a good thing for our community, but let's keep this momentum going. And if this isn't the answer, then let's figure out what is. Because, I mean, things are changing and things are going to change. And if we don't stop and take control and start to lay out plans and have an idea of how we're going to allow things to change to the best of our ability, then we're going to be stuck. And these same issues that are minor issues now are just going to be getting bigger. So, again, this is sort of the first try, but we put our finger on an issue, and that is that there are some things that need to be improved here in Pinardville. So let's keep the momentum going, and see you all on Thursday.
Thank you.
I just got a quick question. Where did the pictures that were in the plan come from?
Does that cost $38,000? Yes. They came from a gentleman named Brian Bright in Tennessee.
It seems like we got this whole thing backwards, or the planning board does. I'm not pointing fingers. But it seems like, shouldn't they have done this plan of Palooza before they even hired Brian Wright, before they did anything, just to find out what the people of Pinardville wanted, you know, and have an idea from the citizenship, who wanted what where we should spend money, instead of going to back to Tennessee?
I totally agree. I think what the issue was is that for so many years, bottom line, you guys have been asleep. And they've been passing higher and higher and higher budgets every year. And, you know, you guys crab a little bit. Ugh, I can't pay that extra $100 or whatever it is. But this has woken us up. And we need, like the gentleman back there that spoke very well, we need to keep it going after we kill this on Thursday. And only us can go and tell that planning board. Nobody else can. And Brian Wright in Tennessee, he's not going to be up here telling them, yeah, you should kill that thing. You know, he sent these pictures up. And from what I understand is it was a big mistake for them to put the pictures in. I don't think that'll ever happen to the next town that they're going to go to. I'll be right over, Gabe.
Sorry to keep doing this to you, but by going to the Thursday night meeting, how are we, by getting up and speaking, going to put a stop to this plan? I mean, let me finish the whole thing. I think there are some good people on the ad hoc Pinardville plan, and there are good people on the planning board, but I think the muscle is there to push this thing through. And I just don't see how going to this Thursday night meeting is going to put a stop to it, unless, you know, the 18,000 people in Goffstown show up. And that's another point I want to make. The population in Pinardville is less than 5,000, which is about a third of it. And this whole thing was the best kept secret. I just found out about it in August. This has been going on since the first of the year. And probably sooner than that. So I just don't see how, you know, we're going to be able to stop this thing just by showing up with numbers. I don't trust the committees, is what I'm saying. Again, there's good people on there, but I think this thing is going through no matter what. And if it gets to a vote in March, Pinardville is about 1/3 the population of the rest of it, who probably don't even know about this. And they're going to vote it in, and we're going to be stuck with it.
Yep.
You're absolutely right about the Thursday meeting. That's kind of like the last chance to stop it before we have to then be going door to door and trying to convince people in Pinardville, as well as people in the village and Grasmere, to come out and vote against it. Because it's not going to end with Pinardville if it gets pushed through. It's going to end up in Grasmere. It's going to, you know, well, I think the Main Street project is already part, is it federal government? Or Rails to Trails is at least. So it's not going to end. But, and even if we defeat it on Thursday and the planning board, we get enough votes that the planning board says we heard you and so we vote no, we're still going to have to be diligent because it's going to creep up again year after year after year.
Okay. I mean, I'm an old man, and I'll admit to that, but I've seen low-income housing and subsidized housing come into neighborhoods many, many different towns. And what you're doing is welcoming crime, drugs, and a lot of problems and appreciation of values and people moving out instead of in. Low-income housing is going to bring you problems you can't imagine what's going to happen.
Now, that's what you should say Thursday night.
Yes, say that Thursday night. And let me get over to you, Katie, but, let me get just,
How many votes does it take to stop the plan?
There's 7, I believe, on the committee. It takes 4.
So just by showing up.
Yes, it will convince them. And, I'm going to be honest. I've told most everybody on that board. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Yes, I was very lucky by you guys to be the #1 vote getter this past term. I was just beyond thankful to you. I have vowed, whoever votes for this, I will do whatever I can to unelect them. And I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat or an independent, or the person's green or blue or whatever. I don't want this in my town. So unfortunately, if it gets past the planning board, which I hope it will not, but like Donna says, it's just going to keep coming back and coming back. And also in the CIP, there's 8 or 9 grants that are coming down the pipe, most of it for the fire department. Could they slip it in there? I do not know the answer to that, but we're going to have to.
John, stick to the point. You're
Yeah.
off base. Stick to the point, please. Thank you. That's all I'll say.
Nothing saying I'm not negative on the fire. I'm just saying that, we got to be careful and watch all the grants. And then you're next, Katie, after this one last person here.
I just really want to make one comment. You hear about divide and conquer. This is what's happening. I live in Pinardville. I've been here 45 years. The people in Goffstown are great. They live in our town. We're one. They named it this, so the people out there would think there was some sort of battle. They're not trying to dump it on us. They're dumping it on everybody. Because when they come for your pocketbook and your pocketbook, you let your friends in Goffstown know their pocketbook's at risk too.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends in Goffstown that said they support this town.
Just something I just want to let everybody know, that it will not end in Pinardville, because after the Plan Pinardville meeting on Thursday, our town planner, Mr. Rose, is asking for another $140,000 so he can finish this master plan. So it's not going to stop in Pinardville. So this is per the CIP notes of 829, if you're looking at, okay? All right. And another thing I would like to ask is the selectmen to please allow a couple of signs, public signs, so this doesn't happen again. We need to be notified in public signs. One public sign that I would be asking for is maybe at the high school, so when parents pick up their kids or the kids are dropped off in the morning, they could look up and saying, okay, zoning changes, let's say Joffrey Street. I think we deserve to have the right to know, and we deserve notification on public signs. So we need a public sign at the Goffstown High School so we can use, and perhaps at Bartlett School, so the people can know. We have the right to know. Thank you.
On the $140,000, for the CIP, the request, from what I'm understanding, it is not related to the Plan Pinardville. Yeah, it's not related. It's with the master plan that we normally do. To keep, I guess we do it every couple of years, if I understand correctly.
But it did say 100, he's asking for $140,000 to finish the master plan.
Yes, it is to finish the master plan, but it could be without this. If the planning board says no Thursday, then this will be wiped off, and then there is a master plan going forward to help, the future of Goffstown.
And the towns that were mentioned, though, are the towns that have this. This is how we got the price. I just wanted to bring that up.
All right.
Hi, I'm Matt Burt. How many of you here were at the last planning
their baloney with extending the meeting, making corrections to page 2 and changing names. Oh, the ad hoc committee. We can't let that happen on Thursday night. We gotta be able to speak, we gotta be able to speak our minds and tell them what we think. And if they don't like what we think, we have to get them out of office the next time around. It's time to start replacing some of these people. Amen.
Out of all the money we pay for taxes, we should have a voice.
Hey, I have one more thing. How many know about the apartment buildings being built behind Shaw's? Anybody? Anybody? It's, from what I understand, it's low-income housing, and I'm told it's the Gagnos buildings. He's the guy who built on the other side of Kelly Street. Anybody see who's building those buildings? Anybody see who the contractor is? You should all drive by and read the sign on the gate. In fact, I kind of bet by tomorrow morning that sign will be gone. The name of the builder is A.W. Rose. No, there's no relation. No, I know they're related. Yeah, they're not related. So, you know. And in all fairness, too, I want to make sure every meeting that they had was posted by the law. You know, so I mean, they're not, you know, the ad hoc committee, they follow the laws. Every meeting was posted at the town clerks, it was posted on the website. So, I mean, you know, we could have all looked and gone, but, you know, we all have lives, and that's the problem, is we do have lives, and then this stuff just kind of floats through, and then all of a sudden we look and go, oh my God, it's here. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but he says that it should be posted on some marquees, you know, the public meetings that are coming up. Yeah. 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 Yes, yeah. You know, but that's it, yes. I agree that it should be more publicized, but they are going by what the current law is, and that's all they have to do, you know, and until we change that in Concord. But, you know, what I'd like to do is wrap it up if nobody else has any more quick comments.
Hi, my name is John. To reiterate what this lady said, that overlooked you, and she has a very nice place. She works very hard at keeping it nice and signs and everything. You know, it's okay, you know. But we just endured, as she said, 3 years of sewer upgrades. The roads were dug up. Huh? It's not even done yet. But Mass Road's done. Anyway, they finished it. Boy, this is nice. It's all paved. The sidewalks go all the way almost to the county nursing home. Leave it alone. Okay, it's done. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't dig it up again. Okay. Everything is. We have karma now. The only big bear in the room is now the Shaw's is closed. Now, what's going to happen to that property? Because you'll probably see that shopping center kind of expect us, whether it die off. That's my prediction. That's going to be the next. As far as the town goes, the next, you know, elephant in the room. So let's, you know, things like that. But everything's good. You can walk up and down that road. You can hit the trail, the rail trail. I come out my dogs all the time, but everything's fine. If it ain't broke, ladies and gentlemen, don't fix it. Thank you.
And the last speaker is.
Hi, I'm Vicki Benjamin. I have to say this is the first meeting that I've been to, and I've been here 13 years. That's a horrible, horrible thing for me to admit. The reason I'm here is this whole common land. I live on College and Roy. They want to run what I call an alleyway behind my house, widen College Road, and then widen Worry Street. I'm gonna lose my property. Am I gonna pay less taxes because I lost my property? No. The low-income housing is a bad thing. We all know that. Roy Street 2 weeks ago, 4 break-ins. You bring that in, double it. We have to get together as a community. And unfortunately, it did take this to make me realize that.
Thank you. Well, in closing, I just want to tell everybody thank you. Oh. The next to the last speaker.
Thank you. My name is Dan Cloutier. I'm coming to encourage you to come in on Thursday. Some people I've heard that say, you know, what good is it going to do? They don't listen to us. They're hearing our emotion. They're not hearing our words. I was elected by you guys to spend 9 years on the budget committee. I got to chair it for 7 years. I'm currently on the school board. And we sit there and we do our business that you charge us to do. But there are times, very, very seldom times, that people actually come to a budget committee meeting, for instance, or even a school board meeting. There's one time I want to tell you, because it was almost as big as this. We were working on the school budget, and we said something about we can't afford football this year. The attendance at the next budget committee meeting was humongous. It made a difference. It told us people are listening, people are watching. So those who say, you know, there were only 30 people there, that's a very small piece. Well, you know what? You can multiply that by at least 100 or 1,000, because that's what the majority of people are saying. So you need to be the people to come, tell the planning board, because it does make a difference. Your voice does, no matter what. Each one of you, even if you do speak or don't speak, it does talk to the people who are at the table. You vote. If they don't vote your way, they may not get your vote. Thank you.
Representative Michael would like to just have a brief second, and he's also the chair of the planning board.
Thank you, Representative Burt, John, my friends. Thank you all of you for coming tonight. I'm telling you, I think personally, I'm very proud of everybody here for the reason that this is how government is supposed to work. The boards and the committees are supposed to listen to the electorate, and they're supposed to do what the electorate want them to do. And I'm very pleased to be a part of this community right now. My business is in Pinardville. I live in Pinardville, and I can tell you that I think the first time in Goffstown's history, the people are going to be listened to and heard very clearly on Thursday night. So please come to the meeting. We all want to see and we all want to hear what you have to say. And I'm sure that all of us are very responsive to the people now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Michael. Well, and again, in closing, this time finally, and I'm going to get you out of here before 9 o'clock. I can't stress it enough. Talk to your neighbors. Call your friends. Make sure. I want to see that building packed full of people. I want to see tailgates with hibachis on the back of them, grilling hot dogs, because there are so many people, they can't go into the building, so they might as well have a hot dog or a cheeseburger out in the parking lot, waiting for the decision of that planning board. You know, because they can do it. Yeah, well, yeah, I don't, yeah, you know, but again, I want to thank you for coming. I'm overwhelmed with this many people. Thank you and God bless you.
GoffstownToday.com, and we are here today with Representative Mark Warden
we are at Bartlett Elementary School, and we are outside the meeting for the Plan Pinardville that happened tonight to give the community more information on what it actually is. And I'd like to know what you've heard, what's your consensus in the community, and what you have heard from people.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate the question. And first of all, I thought it was fascinating to see this many people actually show up for any kind of a meeting. And, you know, very few people take the time out of their busy lives and their families to go talk about something political. So anytime you do have a group like that, they really represent a much larger population that feels the same way. So I think we had, I don't know, 50, 80 people in the room tonight. So I'm thinking they generally represent a lot more than that. And I think it was almost unanimous, I'd say 80, 90%, if not more, people there were against this Pinardville plan. And that's basically what I've heard too, out there talking to business owners along Mass Road about other people who live in Pinardville. I live in Pinardville myself. And the problem is that even though people may agree that we want maybe a little bit more development, commercial development in Goffstown to help reduce some of the burden on the residential taxpayer base, the problem is, how do you get there? And the solution really can be handled with some simple zoning. So what we found tonight is that people don't want this massive plan. It's about a 50-page plan for Pinardville, and I think they know that there are a lot of things, if you read between the lines, that are going to lead to some really negative consequences for Pinardville. Another thing I'd like to mention about this whole Plan Pinardville issue is that it's central planning really from the government agency. It comes from government money from HUD and New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority, and really to sort of shove down the throats of the people of Goffstown. Nobody asked for this. It wasn't like the Goffstown residents were saying, hey, let's have a new beautiful plan for the village of Pinardville. Rather, somebody somewhere had some extra grant money from the feds and from the state said, hey, we have this money to spend, let's do it. How can we use this and increase the level of regulation and central planning in towns around New Hampshire, and in this case that was Goffstown. So unfortunately this plan comes with a lot of effort to try to concentrate people in Pinardville. They really promote high density residential zoning, high density housing, and I don't think the people of Goffstown want that.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you for stopping by tonight and talking with us here at GoffstownToday.com.
My pleasure, thank you.